Welcome back. You're here because you want to get smart fast on something interesting, right? Without sifting through pages and pages.
Exactly, that's what we do.
So today, we are diving into a book that honestly feels like it's already everywhere, even though it's not out yet. Emily Henry's Great Big Beautiful Life.
That's the one. It's scheduled for April 22nd, 2025.
Okay. And for this deep dive, we've looked at, the usual suspects, Amazon page, descriptions.
Yep, the product page, the plot summaries they've released, and crucially, those early editorial reviews that give us a real flavor.
Got it. So the mission today is basically to unpack all that. Give everyone the core story, the themes, what the early critics are saying, a full picture.
Precisely. So you walk away feeling like you really get what this book is about.
All right, let's jump in. The premise, it starts, I gather, on an island, little Crescent Island.
That's right. And we have two writers invited there. First, there's Alice Scott. She's painted as this eternal optimist type, still searching for her big break.
Okay, optimist Alice.
Huh?
And who's the other writer?
That would be Hayden Anderson. And he's positioned quite differently. Already has a Pulitzer Prize, maybe seems a bit more jaded or serious, perhaps.
Polar opposites, kind of. So why are they both on this island? What's the gig?
It's a big one. They're competing to write the biography of Margaret Ives.
Margaret Ives. Okay, who is she?
She sounds fascinating, described as a reclusive octogenarian, a tragic heiress, former tabloid princess, from one of those super scandalous, high-profile families of the 20th century.
Wow. Okay, so a potentially huge career-making story for whoever gets it.
Absolutely, a massive opportunity.
But it's not straightforward, is it? There's some kind of trial period.
Yeah, Margaret sets this up quite deliberately. She gives them 1 month, just 1 month on the island. After that, she'll pick only one of them to actually write the book.
Okay, that adds pressure. What's driving Alice in this? Beyond just wanting the job, I mean.
Well, a few things seem to be going on. The description suggests she genuinely likes people, connects with them, and maybe sees that as her edge with Margaret.
Makes sense for a biographer.
Right. And then there's this push for a serious publication. You get the sense she wants something to, impress her family, prove something.
Ah, the family angle.
But what's really interesting is this mention of competitiveness. She apparently senses it coming from Hayden, the Pulitzer winner, and it kind of sparks something competitive in her.
Ooh, I like that. So it's not just about the story, it's about the rival.
Seems like it adds a whole other layer to her motivation.
And Margaret? She's not making it easy for them to, work together or share notes?
Definitely not. That seems crucial to her plan. She only gives each writer fragments of her story, different pieces.
Oh, clever.
Yeah, and there's a strict non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, explicitly preventing them from sharing what they learn with each other.
So they're both working with incomplete information, trying to piece together this massive life story and competing.
Exactly. It creates this inherent tension and, mystery around Margaret herself.
Wow.
What is she trying to achieve with this setup?
Good question. Is she testing their interpretation? Does she want a specific angle? Lots to think about there.
Right. And then, just to complicate things further.
There's always something else, isn't there?
Well, the descriptions hint pretty strongly at an attraction between Alice and Hayden.
Ah, the rivals to lovers potential.
It seems so. Talk of an inconvenient yearning, that sort of thing. So you've got professional rivalry, maybe some personality clashes, and this undercurrent of attraction.
Classic Emily Henry territory, perhaps.
Yeah.
But with this added biographical mystery layer.
That's a good way to put it. And the way it's framed is really neat, too. It suggests their time on the island, much like Margaret's life itself, could be interpreted in different ways.
How so?
Well, depending on who tells the story, Alice or Hayden, it could become a mystery or a tragedy or a love story. It highlights how perspective shapes narrative.
That is clever. The story itself reflects the act of storytelling.
Exactly. It elevates it. It becomes about truth, memory, interpretation, all wrapped up in this competition and potential romance.
Okay, so that's the setup. Rich premise. Now, you mentioned this book is getting a lot of pre-publication attention.
Oh, absolutely. The anticipation level is sky high. It's been named a most anticipated book by just a ton of major places.
Like who? Give us a few examples.
Okay, let's see. The New York Times, Rolling Stone, People Magazine, USA Today, Harper's Bazaar, Marie Claire, E! Online, The New York Post, Bustle, Reader's Digest, BBC, Pop Sugar, Charades, Paste Magazine. I mean, the list goes on.
Wow. Okay. That's significant buzz before anyone's really read it widely.
It really is. It speaks volumes about the author's reputation and the appeal of the premise.
And speaking of the author, Emily Henry, she's got a strong track record, right? People know her name.
Definitely. She's the #1 New York Times bestselling author of, well, quite a few hits that readers have really connected with.
Remind us of some of those titles.
Sure. There's Funny Story, which was her most recent. Then Happy Place,
Nah.
Book Lovers, People We Meet on Vacation, Beach Read.
Right, right. Big names in contemporary romance and fiction.
Yeah, she's built this really dedicated fan base who trust her to deliver engaging characters, witty dialogue, and, stories with real heart. That existing success definitely feeds into the excitement for Great Big Beautiful Life.
Okay, so established author, intriguing premise, massive buzz. Let's get into what the early readers, the reviewers, are actually saying. You mentioned the editorial reviews. Sounds like they're pretty positive overall.
Overwhelmingly positive, yes. Reading through them, you see a lot of praise and some consistent themes emerge. People really seem to respond to her ability to create these warm, funny worlds with characters you root for.
Let's look at specifics. The Boston Globe, for instance.
Right. The Boston Globe talks about her creating this kinder, sunnier, and funnier galaxy where happy endings can be counted on, which sounds very comforting.
Yeah, but they also mentioned she uses a simple boy meets girl formula, but makes it work with vivid characters.
Yeah.
So acknowledging the structure, but praising the execution.
Exactly. It's the depth she brings to it. And then B.K. Borison, another author, calls it a sweeping love story.
Sweeping. Okay,
Yeah, but one that also explores choices and connections. She uses words like thoughtful, moving, and deliciously tender, suggests real emotional weight.
deliciously tender. I like that. What about Kellyanne Bradley?
She calls it a true joy, describing it as playful, fun, and virtuosically plotted. That last part, virtuosically plotted, is interesting.
Yeah, implies maybe some clever twists or structure, not just straightforward romance.
Could be. She also mentions it explores life's winding paths and dangerous dead ends, and the role love plays in navigating all that.
Sounds like it digs a bit deeper than just the surface attraction.
Seems so. Then Lori Gilmore at USA Today brings up something important. She says there are two gorgeous stories happening.
So Allison Hayden's story and Margaret Ives' story unfolding?
Presumably, yeah. And Gilmore says it explores big themes: truth, storytelling, family, and the things we do for love. Heavy hitters.
And she mentions the romance specifically.
Oh, yeah. Calls it a delicious, slow-burn romance, praises a perfectly grumpy hero that must be Hayden, and says the setting makes it unput-downable.
Perfectly grumpy hero. Fans often love that archetype, don't they?
They do, and that slow burn aspect is often a big draw, too.
What about the chemistry? Does anyone comment on that directly?
Beth O'Leary does, another big author name. She basically guarantees readers will fall head over heels for Alice and Hayden. That's a pretty strong statement about their dynamic.
It really is. Okay, any other standouts? Publishers Weekly often has weight.
They gave it a starred review, which is always a good sign. And they noted something interesting. They said it starts like a charming, if standard rom-com, but then evolves.
Evolves into what?
Into a hauntingly beautiful meditation on what makes a life well lived. They called the whole thing a stunner.
Wow. Okay, hauntingly beautiful meditation. That suggests much more depth than just light romance.
Absolutely. It implies it really grapples with significant life themes, maybe through Margaret's story.
Any other starred reviews?
Library Journal also gave it a star. They recommend it for longtime fans and new romance readers, which is broad appeal.
And they made an interesting comparison, didn't they?
Yes. They compared it to The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Okay, that's a huge comparison. That book deals a lot with fame, hidden histories, how a life story gets told.
Exactly. So that comparison really underscores the potential depth and complexity of Margaret Ives's narrative within the novel. Library Journal also highlights the rivals to lovers slow burn again, clearly a key selling point.
It seems like it. What about Booklist?
Also a starred review. They praise Henry's overall reputation for fashioning sublimely satisfying love stories. They called this one a perfectly calibrated, delectably witty tale with endearingly quirky, thoughtfully nuanced character.
Perfectly calibrated, thoughtfully nuanced. Sounds like praise for the craft, the writing itself.
Yes, very much so. And finally, Kirkus reviews.
What do they pick up on?
They also point out the delightful slow burn romance, but they specifically mention Henry's skill in exploring family drama and the sacrifices people make for love.
So bringing together the romance, the family history through Margaret, and maybe sacrifices Alice and Hayden have to make too.
That seems to be the picture emerging. Romance, competition, family secrets, the nature of storytelling, sacrifice. It's all interwoven. The early reviews are remarkably consistent in their high praise and in highlighting these elements.
Okay, so putting it all together for the listener.
Yeah.
If someone wants the quick takeaway on Great Big Beautiful Life, what are the key things to know based on all this?
Well, first off, expect a blend. It's clearly got the Emily Henry romance readers love, but it's layered with this compelling mystery around Margaret Ives and the whole biographical competition setup.
Right, not just one thing.
Not just one thing. Themes of, competition versus collaboration, the power attraction, the tricky nature of truth and storytelling, and the weight of family, those seem really central.
And the setting. Important.
Seems like it. Little Crescent Island sounds like more than just wallpaper. Reviewers mention its vividness, suggesting it really contributes to the atmosphere and the plot.
Okay. And character-wise.
Expect well-drawn characters, which is a Henry hallmark. That dynamic between the optimistic Alice and the perhaps more cynical Hayden, the grumpy hero, navigating their rivalry and attraction, seems to be the core engine of the plot. The reviews strongly suggest it's engaging, emotionally resonant, and satisfying.
So the bottom line from the early buzz, Great Big Beautiful Life, looks like a compelling package. You've got these two writers clashing and connecting, this mysterious older woman whose story they need to uncover, all on this evocative island. It sounds like a satisfying, possibly quite moving read.
Yeah, that sums it up well. The anticipation seems justified based on these reviews. It promises both the enjoyable romance and something, well, a bit more complex to think about.
Which leads to a final thought, maybe? Given everything we've discussed, the competing writers, Margaret doling out fragments of her past, the idea that the story could be shaped into tragedy or romance, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Considering all those perspectives, Alice's, Hayden's, whatever Margaret's true version, is what actually makes a life beautiful. And how much does the storyteller, their own biases and choices, shape our understanding of that?
That's a great question to leave people with. How subjective is a great, big, beautiful life? Maybe thinking about other books with unreliable narrators or competing viewpoints could be an interesting way to explore that idea further after reading this one.